You're listening to Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars begins now.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Eric Vansel.
I'm Daryl Sanders.
All right. And we're your hosts for this show. So this has been kind of a crazy week, actually. I mean, it was really hard, actually, to figure out what we were even going to talk about. But the fact that John Williams is returning to Star Wars, that's huge news.
Definitely.
So I remember which one of us actually brought this one up. we've been going back. Okay, because I know we've been trading back and forth,
stories,
different stories and things like that. And I remember we were talking about some different possibilities on what we can talk about. By the way, you guys may have noticed if you're watching us live that we're doing this on a Tuesday instead of a Monday, and that's just because our schedules got messed up. So hopefully our audience is following us, and that's always a danger when you do these live streams on a different day. But we will be back on Friday at 8. That should remain unchanged. But yeah, I remember it was funny because I was looking at this, and one of the things that I wanted to do, besides, of course, talk about this whole news that John Williams is actually coming out of retirement to do this. That's super big thing. Yeah, big thing. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about, too, is just why it's important. Because if you think about it, and everybody knows that the music of Star Wars plays a huge, important role. And, of course, I'm sure we can get into that a little bit, too. But one of the biggest things is that even though a lot of these composers have actually been doing a good job, and quite frankly, a better job than I expected. Because when you watch The Mandalorian, when you watch The Book of Boba Fett, when you watch these other shows, it's interesting because they don't... I mean, you could tell it's not John Williams, but it has that spirit of John Williams. It has that same feel. And in some ways, I almost think it's a good thing because John Williams is really associated with the whole Star Wars saga, the saga films, the Skywalker storyline, that whole thing. Whereas these are different, and I think that in some ways, it actually benefits having a different tone to some of these things.
Yeah, I mean, I think the music of John Williams is very noticeable. You know what I'm saying? Like it's one of those things where, he brings a certain panache to anything he's done, whether it's Jurassic Park, whether it's, any of the hundreds of movies he's probably done, in this time.
Mm-hmm.
But especially when it deals with Star Wars, it's always kind of good to know when you have the originator like at the helm. It's kind of like, when there's a lot of people who do pretty good Darth Vader impressions or who done it for video games and stuff, but it's something about knowing that James Earl Jones is behind that microphone, doing the voice. It's kind of like, it really makes you feel like it's Star Wars, and I think that's what it is. And for a lot of us, Star Wars is about, no pun intended, but it's about a feeling, and that feeling is all the things that really truly make Star Wars what it is. So whether it's the way the story moves, the type of characters you have, the music, I mean, it's something that it's ingrained in us for those of us who are really in-depth Star Wars fans.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, basically getting into this, the fact that he's coming back for Obi Wan Kenobi is really interesting to me because obviously that's an iconic character from the original trilogy. And it just seems to me like he wants to put his imprint, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it said he's going to be doing the main theme song to Obi-Wan. I don't know if I don't think he's scoring the whole thing. I just think he's doing the main theme. But that's still pretty big, because you make a great point about the Darth Vader thing, which actually I didn't really think about, but we have talked about it on previous shows. And that is, you're talking about even the James Earl Jones side. You can go to the David Prowse side of that character too. When we did the tribute to David Prowse when he passed, we talked about how there's a certain gait that he has in his walk, and a certain, you could tell, and he just so defined that character without even doing the voice. It was just, exactly, just all body movements. And John Williams is very similar in that. I mean, when you look at the Jaws theme, for example, totally
Still creeps my
iconic.
grandfather out.
Yeah, well,
My grandfather was always telling me the story about like he went to go see Jaws and like the music alone, just like freaked him out. Then of course, the whole shark thing, but he's like, man, like he didn't want to get in the bathtub, man. He was just scared of water so much just
yeah, I
because of the
mean,
music.
I had a
Because that's
similar
all he could hear
experience.
in his head.
Sure. And I mean, it just shows you the psychology, right? That marriage
Yeah.
of how music can actually influence you, and it changes everything. And that's a perfect example because it doesn't even have to be a shark. You just know something ominous. I mean, if you
hmm
just played the Jaws theme over footage of just water like at dusk or something, I mean, that would just be so freaky, and it wouldn't even necessarily be who knows what's under there. In fact, that's one of the reasons
Exactly.
why large bodies of water, even though, yeah, I'll jump in and everything, but they do creep me out, especially if they have a certain look to them. And all that's
Well,
music.
yeah. Now, speaking of the music part, you and I had the cool opportunity of actually going to the Detroit Symphony Orchestra to actually see a
Yes.
Star Wars movie done. And one of the cool things that they did was they actually played the movie, but the actual orchestra played the music along
hmm
with the movie, and it was just it amazed me because I never thought about how much little incidental music that is played. That if you took it out of the movie, it's like something's missing. And that's one of the things about John Williams, like just the music, like dun, 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 dun. Like it's just lightly played in the background, but it's just kind of like if it's not there, you really don't. You kind of like, man, there's something missing here. So I mean, that's just another thing, another testament to John Williams and his, you know, uh, superiority in the music world is just finding the right thing for the right moment, and that's kind of it's almost kind of like a photographer. Really, they're not just there to take pictures, but they're also there to pose you and to create the best. They know symmetry, they know lines, they know how to really bring out the best in the photo. And that's the same with John Williams. He can look at a scene and he can craft something that really, whether it's something that builds to some or swells to a big opus, or if it kind of just lightly plays in the background and you barely even notice it, but now that you get a chance to see it live or see it play, you're like, hey, dang, that was there too. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's just amazing.
it's basically taking a scene and enhancing it with music and almost telling the story of the scene through music. And it's true. I mean, anything from because you and I went and saw the DSO do the whole Empire Strikes Back thing. I actually saw them do the same thing with the New Hope. I think it was like a year
hmm
earlier or something.
Yeah.
And it was the same kind of deal. And in fact, it was interesting because I think the mix was a little bit better with that one. But what was really cool, I remember when I first heard about the New Hope thing, and I still wasn't sure even when you and I saw Empire what they were going to do, because I thought that what was going to happen was they were just going to perform the music from that film. That it was
Yeah.
essentially going to be a concert. And yeah, I thought they might have some visuals behind them, maybe playing certain scenes or whatever, in order to enhance what they were playing. But I had no idea what they were going to do was actually just show the movie dialogue and all. I mean, it was the entire film.
It was beautiful, man. I
Yeah,
mean, absolutely brilliant. I
right.
love that.
Right. And they just took the music track out of the movie and they just performed it live, which was what an ingenious idea.
Oh my goodness. And it just shows you like even the timing, because they didn't miss, like the
I
music
know.
hit right when it was supposed to. I
I
mean, it was
know. I mean,
just
I was freaking out about that too. I was thinking, wow, how much do you have to rehearse it? And anything could happen
yeah,
when it's live, you know?
exactly.
And yet you're right. I mean, it was, in fact, after a while, even though it was live sound in a theater and everything, you actually started to forget that it wasn't part of the film
hmm
because it was that close.
Yeah.
And like you
And
said, that really hammered home John Williams' contribution to this saga, really. In fact, I hope
yeah,
that COVID, now that it's seems to be winding, I mean, you never know, but
yeah.
I'm hoping that maybe they'll do Return of the Jedi at some point soon.
Yeah, that would be definitely cool. Now, one of the cool things I did think about, and you brought this up earlier about Obi Wan. You know why John Williams came back, because Obi Wan is such an iconic character. But you also do have other iconic characters that we're probably going to see, and this is his era. Like this is, um, I guess John. You could say this is still kind of John Williams's era because it takes place like right before A New Hope, and you have Vader, you have probably Tarkin is going to be in it. So, you kind of have that original trilogy vibe going here. So it only kind of makes sense that John Williams
Well,
has
it
some
does and
part
it
in it.
doesn't. I mean, I honestly thought that it was strange that they didn't use John Williams for Rogue One or for Solo: A Star Wars Story. Now, I get it, being that those were actually films. They were trying to separate it from the saga movies, especially
Mhm.
because they were landing right in between saga film releases, but it was still kind of mysterious. And look, much like a lot of these other guys, John Williams is like 90 years old.
Mhm.
And it's just a matter of time, and it's just
Yeah.
interesting that him being finally retired, he actually came out of retirement specifically to do this. And it does lead you to wonder, I mean, is this going to be a one-off thing? I mean, probably, but it would be interesting to see if he does other stuff too. Like you said,
Well,
within this
that's
time period.
well, yeah, and it makes sense that he would probably only doing the thing like you said. He's 90. I mean, that'd be kind of unfair to ask to have a guy score like this whole series or whatever and create all the music for it at 90 years old, and he's you know, I mean, it would be cool, but it's not, it's probably not the best thing in the world to do.
Well, it's
Why
kind of
stress
like,
this guy
does he
out?
want to? Because he hops basically from one film project to another, or what else he was doing in between it. Now, the idea is, okay, finally, at late 80s, I can just kick back and relax a little bit, and not have to worry about deadlines, not have to worry about the creativity. I
And
mean,
rewriting and all this. I mean,
sure.
just all the whole process. It probably comes to creating something like this. I wonder
Yeah.
if John Williams actually listens to like the other scores from the other director. I mean, from the other films though, or even the series, like you said, like Mandalorian, Boba Fett, uh, and all the rest of the films.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, the films, I would say probably, because I'm sure he's seen them, and I think at least with Rogue One, I thought that he was actually invited to the premiere. I'm not sure, but it would seem to me like that would be a little bit more inescapable, let's say, than
Mhm.
the TV show. Now, the TV series definitely would be a question mark because, right, is he? I mean, that would be easier. All he has to do is have a Disney Plus subscription, and he can just flip through it. I mean, it's not like you have to leave the house or anything. But yeah, you do have to wonder. I mean, I know if it were me, I'd be curious.
So let's just take a guess real quick. So because of, I guess you want to say more or less the tone of Obi-Wan, what do you think? Do you think that's going to match the opening thing?
Oh, here, I recorded a demo, what I think it might sound like.
Oh, awesome.
I
Glad
bust
you
out
had this
like a little
handy.
record. Like, here, let me just play it for you real quick. I got this like
You got
idea or
like the
whatever.
leaked music.
Oh, I wish. No, I
I know,
mean,
right?
well, see, the thing about him, and this is one of the things I really appreciate about his music, is the fact that it really does embody, whether it's a scene or a character or anything like that, it actually embodies whatever the subject of that particular piece of music is about. And that's an incredibly difficult thing to do, especially being a musician.
Mhm.
I can respect that. I mean, for instance, when there's that little theme that's playing in A New Hope when the Jawas arrive in the Sandcrawler and they're lowering the droids down and they're getting ready to talk to Luke and Owen. There's this, it's kind of like this like short busy, I mean, it just
Bit
fits the
Yeah, and
Jawas
that's what I'm talking about.
perfectly.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
the Han and Leia love theme.
Your favorite?
my favorite. I mean, it's
Yep.
actually one of the things that in the Imperial March were what caused me to get. Well, I think I actually got the soundtrack to A New Hope first. I'm trying to remember. I know I got the Empire Strikes Back soundtrack on vinyl, of course, but I don't remember if I went back and ended up, realistically getting my parents to go out and get me the vinyl for the original film, or if I got that one first and then that was the next thing. And I mean, think about it. And it wasn't some sort of a weird thing where I was trying to reenact scenes with my action figures and I needed the soundtrack. I was a 9 or 10-year-old kid that this music moved me so much, I had to have it. And I was listening to it. I was listening to John Williams' soundtrack, The Empire Strikes Back in particular, because that was my favorite one. I mean, not only was my favorite Star Wars movie, but it just so happened that that's my favorite soundtrack of all the films, too. But it just amazes me. It just goes to show you how brilliant this guy is, that a 10-year-old kid is just, for lack of a better term, jamming out to the soundtrack. And I'd put headphones on and it more or less transported me. And it wasn't even so much that I was thinking of like Han and Leia when I was listening to the theme. I mean, it would really take you into your own.
Allison from third period. I know.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Right. That's awesome. Exactly. It's like taking me back to,
picture yourself like this music is playing on his background. You probably put it on a cassette tape, so when you guys go on a date,
I'm all acting it out, totally daydreaming. But I mean, yeah, I mean, who knows? I'm sure that probably did happen at some point. But what I'm talking about really is more the whole, you're just kind of getting lost in the whole music. You're getting lost in the vibe of what the music is doing. And that's one of the things that I always loved about any of his soundtracks, not just Star Wars, but anything, where obviously it fits that whatever scene that it's in. Like you said, even if it's the incidental music, they're just showing the landscape, a Tatooine or something. It fits. But the other thing that it does is that you can remove the piece of music from the visual context and just enjoy it on its own as a brilliant piece of music. And
oh yeah, definitely.
It takes you on your own journey. And I mean, that's just, to me, that's just incredible. Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing about John Williams too is that like none of his music sounds alike, in a sense of when you go from film to film. Like take Star Wars, it sounds nothing like Jurassic Park to me. It's just kind of like you get the same sense of urgency. There's like he's good at the sense of urgency things, like when there's some things that's like, all right, or something terrifying that's happening. Like he's really good at, doing that. But like even like the theme, dun, 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 like it just sounds majestic and cool and almost regal, and that's cool because you're talking
Absolutely.
about prehistoric things. So it should kind of have that regal old vibe to it. But then like, this Star Wars thing is kind of like the space opera almost. So it kind of has that gravitas to it, the big horn fanfare at the very beginning, and you definitely feel like you're about to sit down and watch a story. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying. Like it's just he's so excellent at capturing like the vibe of whatever project that he's on or whatnot.
Well, it's a good point.
But
It's a great point because it cannot be overstated that it could have been, say, that Star Wars is like some sort of a fluke. It was a one-off or whatever, but it wasn't. I mean, every movie this guy does is every bit as epic in, I mean, whatever the song needs, of course. Or not the song, but the movie. Obviously, E.T. is a little bit different from Jaws, which is different from Jurassic Park or Star Wars. Thing is that they're all equally brilliant and all fit their subject matter equally well, which is astounding from one composer.
yeah,
And it's all memorable. That's the other thing. Because there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of really
Like,
brilliant, film guys. I'm thinking of I just had them. Hans Zimmer or Jerry
mm-hmm.
Horner or um, man, there's just so many of them out there that are just. I mean, they're great at what they do, and they have created some iconic soundtracks in their own right. But it's usually a few of them that stick out. And then their other soundtracks are, I guess, what I would call serviceable. It's not that they're bad. It's just they're not. I mean, they do the job, you know.
So to that point, I have to bring up the whole Family Guy thing. And they're like, ladies and gentlemen, John Williams, and then he's playing, and then like something happens, then they like Danny Elfman has to take over, and they just
Oh
hate it,
yeah,
so they just give.
and they actually do the whole music in the style of Danny Elfman.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like priceless.
Yeah,
But
it was
yeah, and
awesome.
it's and you could tell like, okay, if Danny Elfman did Star Wars, what would this sound like?
Right.
And it wouldn't give what it needed to give. You're just like, yeah, this isn't working. And that's, I mean, and don't get me wrong, I love Danny Elfman because of course he did the Batman theme. But um yeah, it's just there's just something about, having John Williams, like I said, at the podium, crafting and another opus for us that's just, once again probably will transcend time. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Obi-Wan ever had a theme,
I don't
because like
think
Luke had
so.
one, Han and Leia, they kind of shared one, Yoda had one, but like Obi-Wan being such a pivotal character, I don't think he ever had a theme. And so I think this is also cool for just his character alone, that he gets his own theme.
Yeah, and that could very well be one of the reasons why, and that, like I said, that could actually be the deciding factor of why he's coming out of retirement to do this one, because that is a good point. Where even though he didn't do, say, the music to Solo, which featured a lot of original trilogy characters, and I mean, there was a Solo theme, but I think something like this, where, like you said, Han more or less shared the Han and Leia love theme or whatever.
Hmm.
Maybe it wasn't as necessary, but it does make sense that given that this particular series takes place in the midway point between episodes 3 and 4, it makes sense that, yeah, if you're going to give this character his own theme, then maybe get the guy that pretty much, I mean, as much as George Lucas had the vision and he was the creator of this whole thing, John Williams is firmly the guy who created the whole musical template for Star Wars. That's still
Oh
being
yeah, hands
followed to
down.
this day. I mean, as much as, take a look at the Book of Boba Fett soundtrack, which definitely plays off of that character and maybe a little bit of the Western thing, and some of the music in there is a little bit different for Star Wars, but it still basically feels like Star Wars because essentially they're still following the template that John Williams created.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and I can't pronounce the guy who does that, who's the composer for Mandalorian. I think it's like Granderson or something like, or Hansel. Forgot his name, so I don't want to butcher it.
Yeah,
But
you're well on your way,
yeah,
so it's good.
yeah, I know. That's
It's good that
also
you
like, let
it's
me
good that
just
you
stop.
probably stopped while you were ahead, you know?
But I think that, it's yeah, it's really important that you capture that, because as fans, we notice stuff like that. We pay it. The music is as much as part of Star Wars for us as a lightsaber, or an X-wing or something like that. It just is, and it could definitely take you out of the enjoyment of the show, honestly. If it's not done right. So that's why it was so cool to actually have him come back and actually do as bad as the sequels were, you know, to know that he was still doing the music for it was like, okay,
Yeah, there's
you
continuity
know.
there. And the
Mhm.
sequel trilogy was really interesting as far as the music goes, because it wasn't, I mean, outside of maybe a few themes, it wasn't quite as see, I don't really want to say memorable because it's not really the word, but I guess character specific or
Okay.
really specific. You know, there was not really an Imperial March or a Han and Leia theme or, you know, some of these other themes that basically stick with you that, for lack of a better term, have more of a hook to them. It seemed like the music of the sequel trilogy actually was more incidental than anything else.
So one of the things that I was really looking forward to when it came to the sequel trilogy was I wanted to hear what Kylo's theme was going to be and Rey's theme. You know, Rey kind of had this more like of a sprightly
Mm-hmm.
Tinkerbell-ish kind of
Yeah,
vibe to me.
absolutely.
You know, um, but I was really curious as like for Kylo because it's like, how do you follow up the Imperial March and Duel of the Fates? I mean, quite frankly, those are the two greatest like almost like villain. I can't even say Duel of Fates is a villain theme per se because it's more like just a battle, but because it has that good versus evil vibe to it. You know, I kind of to say that, but yeah, those two are like played by like marching bands all over. I mean, in schools, like kids are never even like, okay, they're getting this sheet music, like, okay, Duel of the Fates, John Williams. You know, they've even seen Star Wars before, and they're playing this music, but they love it though. They just love the way it progresses, and it's really just cool. And whenever he crafts something like that, so I was really curious to see like how he was going to do Kylo Ren because. And I think he still got it because, Kylo's unhinged. He's kind of just whacked out, almost like psychotic in a way. But he kind of captured that once again, that vibe in his theme.
Yeah, and that's the thing that he does extremely well. I was going to say, even going back to the Jaws franchise, he did the first two films. Actually, I prefer the music of Jaws 2 more than the original. And I find myself watching Jaws 2 more than the original because it's a little bit
Mm.
more fun. It's still really good. And in a lot of ways, it really is the Jaws horror film because in that film, the shark definitely has more the killer stalking his prey type of a vibe. You know, I mean, it very much
Mhm.
follows a horror movie template, actually. But aside from that, one of the things that's really cool is that there's a lot of really memorable things in it again. And I think one of the things that's cool about John Williams coming back into this is the fact that once again, it just reinforces that template that he's creating because you cannot overstate the importance of this guy to the franchise. You know, it's like you said, even somebody like Kylo. I mean, Kylo that's a challenging character to write a theme for because
Yeah.
you have to capture so many different elements of his character. There's so many different facets there.
Mhm.
There's the impatience, there's the just the
The rage,
the rage, the anger, the basic
confusion.
intelligence, you know, the
Yeah.
fact that he was once a good guy, his
Mhm.
impulsiveness, all these different
Yep.
elements, and you have to try to capture this into a theme. So it's just really interesting to me to hear some of this stuff. And one of the things that at some point I'll do, but it for the sequel trilogy would really be interesting to just listen to the soundtrack of it without the distraction of the film itself.
Mhm.
Just to see what the music is like. And it would be great if our local Detroit Symphony Orchestra ever did, say, The Force Awakens, much like they did, who knows? They could actually go back to the prequels. I mean, they could technically do it. I mean, I say that like it's just, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
just go ahead and learn this music tomorrow and let's get this concert going. They still have to rehearse some of these other big classical pieces that they're doing too. They have all these different and then of course they'll add a rock band to the orchestra, and then they'll do the music of Queen or the music of Led Zeppelin and music of Billy Joel and stuff like that. So it's not like they don't have a full roster, but it would be cool since they did open the door to just go ahead and do that, because every once in a while they've done, I've never seen this, I would have loved to, but where you know how they'll do the music of John Williams every once in a while where they just do all of his movies. Yeah.
And you really forget, like, you know, and I'm gonna I'm glad you kind of brought up all the movies, because I kind of wanted to play a little, not to be Jigsaw here, but I want to play a little game. So and I'm gonna get you prepared for later, because there's a part 2 to this. So top 5 favorite John Williams for a franchise, and then later on we'll do top 5 favorite songs from Star Wars.
So top 5 favorite for the franchise. So in other words, for a franchise he did or something, or
not. It doesn't have to necessarily be a franchise, but like other movie themes, basically.
Oh,
that he's done.
Man, you know, it's like I know all the big ones. Hopefully, I just don't leave anything out. Well, you want to do that part now?
Yep. I'll go first. That way, you give you time to think. Unless you need.
Well, I mean, I can. No, I don't need it. I mean, you know, I've been watching movies longer than you have. I mean, I'm just saying that, you know.
All right.
I just gotta get all like offended, like, you know.
Be like Lando. All right.
It's like, really, man? I mean, you know, what do you think this is? But no, so obviously the Jaws theme would be up there. The Indiana Jones theme is up there, definitely. The Imperial March, I still think, is one of his all-time best. So
that's 3.
Yeah. I'm gonna say, wow, because this is like off the top of my head. I wish I had a list of all of his films, because I know there's a bunch of them that I'm missing. The Jurassic Park theme, you got to put that in there, because that's just so iconic, and it's beautiful. Because I'm thinking in terms of, I'm trying to actually do this based on the music, not the movie, but just the music. I'll probably just throw in E.T.
Okay.
Pretty sure he did the music for that.
Yeah.
So I guess that'll be my 5.
My 5 would be Indiana Jones, Jaws, Superman.
Oh, I forgot about that one. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna have to swap out E.T. with Superman, because that is an amazing. I mean, I get chills every time I hear that.
Me too.
Theme, man.
And I'm not even a huge Superman fan like that.
No, but I mean, it's the music.
But that music though, it does put chills to you. And then
yeah,
I'm gonna go outside the box. I'm gonna do Home Alone, because for whatever reason that music always makes me feel like I'm in a holiday spirit. Like that music always makes it feel like Christmas to me. So
yeah, no, I mean that totally makes sense. I'm glad that
Black History Month. I could have did Amistad, but you know.
Well, he's just done so many. Did he do Close Encounters?
Yeah.
I think he did Close Encounters, and that had some super iconic music in it too. I mean, again, it's just really tough. And the 5 that I picked, though, much like the 5 that you picked, I think that would probably stand the test of time. In other words, you know, if somebody brought up another movie or something, I don't know if I would swap any of them out. I mean, I know I just swapped out E.T. for Superman, but that's because I forgot he did the Superman soundtrack. But yeah, that would be my list. Now, within that top 5, I think there's no particular order, really, because it would change depending on the day, I think. But yeah, well, I mean, we might as well just do the Star Wars ones now, right? I mean,
we can.
Might as well. Nobody's chatting. Because we went and did a different day. Oops. And I had a feeling that would happen. I just didn't really want to come on by myself again and
yeah.
Try to do it. Because, I mean, the show was based on you and I talking. At least you were able to chat in. That part was cool. All right, so I will let you go first for the Star Wars one, because I went first for the franchise one.
Okay. Of course, the opening theme for Star Wars. I mean, of course, you got to do that.
Oh, absolutely.
It's iconic.
I mean, I already know 3 of your 5. I mean, it's
yeah,
possibly
Imperial
even
March,
4. Yeah.
Duel of the Fates.
Mm-hmm.
Han and Leia, and then the final duel between Luke and Vader, like after Luke kind of came out of hiding. That whole choir kind of like the movements in that song, it gives me chills every time I hear it.
Well, it's the perfect marriage between subject. I mean, that's basically mine.
Yep.
I mean, if I was gonna give like an honorary 6, believe it or not, it would be the Cantina theme from New Hope. The I mean, that's pretty cool, and that's totally iconic too.
Yeah, it is.
But I mean, I would say that that's probably the 5, and I mean, that's a really difficult thing to do. Because, again, when you're talking even just within Star Wars, there's just so much iconic music in that entire, especially when you take the entirety of the franchise.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you could almost do a top 10.
From prequel to sequel?
Yeah. I mean, you could almost do a top 10 just even in the original trilogy, much less the entire saga. And then you're saying, oh, the top 5. So, but still, I look at it as what stands out.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the phrase I was looking for earlier. It wasn't so much that with the sequel trilogy that it was bad. It was just mostly incidental music to me because not a whole lot of the soundtrack to Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, it didn't stand out to me. And again, that's not always a bad thing either. I mean, you don't always have to have music that just, screams, listen to me. But that's the brilliance of John Williams, though, because if you think about it, the Imperial March or Duel of the Fates certainly do. But the scenes are so iconic that you don't even think about it. It really enhances what you're seeing. And I think that that's really the perfect thing. So when it comes to, him coming out of retirement to do the Kenobi thing, there's a couple of questions that perhaps people would logically ask. Number one, is this just a one and done thing? I mean, I personally think it probably is. What are your thoughts on it?
One and done as far as the music, or are you talking about just the Obi Wan series in itself?
No, the music. John Williams. John Williams' participation in Star Wars.
Oh yeah, I think it's probably one and done. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Unless they do something crazy where they decide to do like a Vader movie or something like that, and they might bring him back for that or something. Or Vader TV show. Like it would have to be something like really big for him to actually come back for.
Well, but if you think about it, I mean, as the rumor mill keeps churning out, Vader is having a bigger and bigger piece of this Obi-Wan puzzle. So here's the thing that I'm wondering. We know he's coming out to do the Obi Wan theme, but that doesn't necessarily mean he isn't doing anything else because they just haven't announced anything. Now, it could very well be that, this would be a first, but that they're being transparent and, yes, John Williams is coming back. He wanted to do this one theme, and then we're going to send him back off to, his retirement.
Shady Pines.
But it could be. Yeah, actually, it's kind of a nice. It's funny because, you were talking earlier about kids and they're playing his music and stuff. It's probably still on YouTube. There was this story. It was probably done by some local news organization or something, but this girl, I think she played like violin or something like that. It was either that or maybe it was a horn. It was something like that. And she really wanted to actually play the Star Wars theme for John Williams. So she actually like camped outside his house or something and just kind of waited for him. And
wow, that's
the thing that was cool, because her mom, you could tell, was just letting her daughter do this, but she was a little uncomfortable. Well, he came out, and I think he was kind of like in his robe and slippers or something. I mean, I think he was just basically coming out to get the mail or whatever.
Just got out the shower, like just trying to start my day.
Right,
Jeez.
wet hair,
And he put his teeth
but,
in,
Exactly. But I mean, he actually came out, and of course, I'm sure at first it was motivated by, all right, man, do I need to call the cops on this person? Maybe I just need to come out and find out what their deal is.
I got some wacko outside of my house
exactly.
playing my music.
Right, come quickly.
Help. He's hitting the life alert thing.
Right, he's spelling it out in his blood on the window or something. The life alert. Oh, man. But yeah, he actually came out, and he was very cool to this person. I mean, he was really, I mean, he almost treated her as if he actually expected her to be there. That's what was so supremely cool about this. And he graciously listened to her, kind of, I'm not going to lie, somewhat butcher the song a little bit. I mean, it wasn't bad. But
he probably gave us some pointers. Like, look, kid,
it's like, all right.
I wonder how I wrote it. It's like that Michael Jackson thing.
Yeah, right. It's kind of like looking her in the eye and go, "You're gonna make a fantastic waitress someday." But, but I mean, it was just really cool how he was so supportive of that, and he was really gracious about it. And I mean, it wasn't so much that she really sucked. It was just the fact that, look, these things are not meant to be played on a solo instrument. So it's one of those things where you just have to use your imagination a little bit, I guess. But I mean, that was just a really cool thing for him to do. And he was really gracious, especially considering the fact that her and her mom or whatever, like, camped outside his house.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's just the fact that it's like, this person inspired, and I guess he has to look at it from like, I've inspired this person so much that they just had to do this because, this is just all they want to do. I'm almost like, I want to play for this person because they inspired me so much. It's, and
well,
I mean,
maybe
that
that's
is really cool.
It is, but I mean, maybe that's, maybe he goes, maybe I should dial down that inspiration a notch or two. Maybe that's why the sequel trilogy is like a little bit more subdued. It's like, okay, I still want to do a good job, and I still want to maintain my legendary status, but I don't necessarily need teenagers camping out on my lawn trying to play the part on like a bassoon or something. It's
I mean, what it was is that he saw the film and he was like, this sucks. I'm about to give you my best work with this.
What would be hilarious is if he actually like listened to her play and go, the song really wasn't all that great. I really should have done something different. I mean, it's really interesting to me because if you think about it, I mean, obviously, she's learning and everything else, but it's got to be interesting to hear people, like, say, the DSO, right? If he ended up hearing them, to hear this stuff played back where he's not conducting it, because I understand that he's hearing it back from his own orchestra, or at least the orchestra he's worked with for years.
Right.
But to hear somebody else conducting it, because that's where the conducting in classical music, that's where a lot of that personal stamp comes from. That's why it's such a revered position in the orchestra, because they're more or less the leader and they're guiding everything. So it's really cool. It really is.
So for Obi-Wan, what do you think we're going to hear as the main thing? Like, how do you think? And I don't mean like notes or whatever, but I
Yeah,
mean
like,
just
how do you think it's gonna go? It's like, well, I think it's gonna
yeah,
be
like
you know.
right. You start humming this thing out, but
Right.
no, but I mean, like, yeah. What do you? How do you think it's gonna go? Like, do you think it's gonna be darker in tone? Do you think it's gonna be more
I think it's gonna be
regal?
more melancholy. Because you
Okay.
have to think about where Obi-Wan is at this point in his life and his career as a Jedi, such as it is. And that is, he basically is just, he's one of two guys that essentially failed the entire universe. And that's weighing on him. And the fact that he has to go into hiding and he has to bide his time until Luke gets older, he can train him, and maybe they go take on the Empire. And in the meantime, not only does he have the failures that of course he and Yoda share weighing on his shoulders, but now he has to see the fruits of that every day in the Empire. He has to see all the atrocities and just the whole totalitarian style that they're governing when he was once a key component of the Republic. When you actually think about all that, and that's not to say I
Yes.
think the entire thing is, I think it's going to be, that's going to be the main overtone of it. I
Okay.
don't think it's going to be some swashbuckling type of an affair, though. I think it's going to be more subdued, melancholy. I don't know. There might be some hope, some hopeful overtones or undertones.
Mm.
That's probably where they're going to go, but I don't know. See, this is the kind of thing where, wouldn't it be great? We can open the show and say, well, we'd like to welcome our special guest, John Williams, is joining us today. Of course, even if he were here, he wouldn't really, I don't think he would tell us much.
Oh, that he's he's
So
definitely
here,
tight
I'll
on
give you
that.
guys some, the sheet music that you can throw up on, big square or whatever, I don't think that would happen, but that would have been great. Just like with that girl that was playing, if you just started yelling, "Get off my lawn," that would have been.
Cut on the sprinklers on her.
Yeah, right. Get out the hose and start spraying her down, Become the crabby old
kids.
man.
Sounds like
Exactly.
Scrooge.
Stupid millennials, something like that. But that's one of those things where I think that he's probably going to take into consideration, much like he does with all the characters, on where are they at that point in their lives. Now, the tricky thing, though, is that, and this is where the question comes for future projects, because if you give Obi-Wan his own theme, okay, let's say they make more Obi-Wan content, are you going to use that theme? And if you do, you want it to be somewhat flexible as far as the emotion of it, because you don't want
you don't want
the triumphant
this
return
drab.
yeah, exactly, this drab crazy thing. And so I think it really depends on a lot of different things. I think there's going to be many components to it, but if I had to guess, I'm going to say that it's going to be kind of a more subdued type of a thing.
Gotcha.
And I really hope
Okay.
that it's because one of the things I think is really cool, and this is Star Wars without John Williams, is look at how brilliant the Mandalorian theme is, and how that really, I guess, somewhat encapsulates where the Din character is at. But it's, and this is going to sound insulting, but I don't mean it that way. It's generic enough to fit multiple situations, to where you really look at it as his theme, and you're not really thinking of it as how the character is feeling or what the character's going through. Because it's true, you can, within the Obi-Wan series, you can have other pieces of music that actually fit the tone of where he
Convey
is
that.
at that point, right? But the theme, but I still think that the theme is going to be a combination of a lot of these things, because Obi-Wan has always been that kind of character. He's always been that guy who's he's a by the book guy, and he's just like, well, why can't you just
Serious.
follow the rules? And yeah, exactly. He's very serious. He's very studious. He tries to do the right thing. He tries to basically not rebel in any way. He sees a little bit about what happens to other people who have rebelled, which I think reinforces even though, if you think about it, though, by the time we get to episode 4, I mean, he still has a little bit of rigidity to him, but he's a little bit more loose and a little bit more relaxed. And it's not that he lacked those qualities when he was younger. He didn't. He kind of had a sense of humor, and he was a little snarky at times and everything else. But he just seemed, like he wasn't so uptight. Let's put it that way.
Well, yeah, I think I think for me, I think he's gonna have a more serious tone, but I think it's gonna have some regal elements to it. Like
Oh, yeah, it could be.
I want to say that because you know he has this once again this confrontation with Vader.
Hmm.
I think he's gonna start off in a place where he's very down, almost like that fall from grace type thing vibe going on with him. But then I think eventually throughout the series, he hits that turning point where he's like, you know what, I gotta, I can't wallow in this despair. I have to then, and I think maybe Qui-Gon may have something to do with that. And I think he's probably going to eventually switch or hit that, hit that switch where now he's okay, almost like I'll to do what I must type thing, where he's back to being the confident Obi-Wan again. And I think that's why you get that vibe in episode 4, where he's kind of like, okay, you know, he's more calm, cool, collected because he's older now. He's gotten over that moment. So
No, I agree. I think you're right. I think he is going to hit that switch. And of course, you guys need to hit that subscribe and like button. See what I
that's
did
right.
there?
I do.
Yeah, so hit the like button, of course, because it does help us out with the show. Hit the subscribe button so that way you don't miss content as we put it out. Of course, we're streaming every Monday and Friday. But yeah, I think that ultimately the theme is going to embody Obi-Wan's character from throughout the entire saga. I guess that would probably be the best way to put it. The entire saga. Because you almost have to. Because like you said, this isn't just they create a character, so now we have to have a theme for this character. This is a character that's been around for a while. And I think you're right. I don't think he's had music that's been... I think with Obi-Wan, the music has been more circumstantial or situational than an actual character theme. Much like Vader has the Imperial March. That's his theme. Obi-Wan's never really had anything like that I can recall, because I do leave that 5%, like I'm 95% sure. But there is that 5% where suddenly a bunch of people start bombing us in the comments like, dude, really? Don't you remember Obi-Wan's theme from, like it's actually called something that obvious. And we're up here with our own Star Wars show talking about some theme. But I actually don't think, I think you're right. I think that, and if they were going to do that, they wouldn't even need John Williams, right? All they'd have to do is rework whatever current theme he already has.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously,
yeah,
if you're bringing him back to write a theme, then there hasn't been a theme.
That's my guess too.
Now, I mean, I'm going to keep contradicting myself, but there's a possibility that he could have had somewhat of a recurring theme, but they're talking about the actual theme to the show. And that's the other thing too, because if you actually read the article, it talks about the theme to Obi-Wan. But we've been assuming up until this point that it was the character. It could just be the main title theme to the show. But either way, it'd be the coolest thing ever. And I mean, if you think about it, the main title theme to The Mandalorian is essentially the Mandalorian theme.
Right.
So, I mean, there's that. But I think the important thing is you guys. It's always you guys. What do you guys think of this whole thing? I mean, first of all, are you excited that John Williams is coming back to Star Wars? I mean, you probably are. But look, I know that there's some people out there who are happy that John Williams has basically turned this over to other composers so we can get some different
music.
Yeah, different music, different personalities. Of course, everybody loves John Williams, and they all love the fact that he created the template. But there's a lot of people that do want music that has maybe a little bit different character, a little bit different personality, and everything like that. So, there could conceivably be people out there who maybe aren't that excited about this. But let us know that in the comment section. And to go along with Daryl's theme, what do you think that it's going to sound like? What do you think? What kind of characteristics do you think we can expect in this main title theme? Let us know in the comment section below. So I think that's going to pretty much wrap up our show for tonight. We don't really know what we're talking about Friday, do we? I know I always ask this all the time.
Well, we have ideas.
We do. We always have ideas.
Just a matter of choosing which one we
Yeah, because, I mean, again, we're entering into another period where there's just a lot going on in Star Wars right now. And it's really difficult sometimes to pick a topic. Because usually for the Friday shows, we'll try to do something somewhat current. Our Monday shows are generally more for reviews, more in-depth discussions, that kind of a thing. They're more topical, whereas our Friday shows are a little bit more newsy. So, again, there's no shortage of Star Wars news, though. Thank goodness for that. So, remember to join us Friday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. And, of course, Monday. Now, again, we're probably not going to be on again until... instead of the Monday show, it'll probably be Tuesday again, because once again, I got this whole event that I got to do for work, so it's going to prevent us from going live on Monday. But there is a possibility that we'll pre-record it. So just keep watching our channel. You'll see when it'll premiere. So with that, we will see you guys on Friday with whatever topic we're going to talk about. You're just going to have to watch and find out. So until then, I'm Eric Vansel.
I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.